asking to start running a game. Okay. Hello and welcome to a Storytime special episode of Tell Me Another, the podcast about all kinds of storytellers and the stories they tell. Those of you with unimpaired vision may notice that this is a video episode, and we are trying to just be a little bit goofier today. We have a few special guests. One in particular has agreed to run a game for us, and that would be Mr. Jonathan Walton. How are you doing, Jonathan?
He's muted.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great as soon as I unmute my mic.
Okay, and we have PK Sullivan, as per usual, as the kids say.
Do the kids say that?
They don't say that.
Or is this just Josh trying to stay hip and relevant?
That's what the hipsters say.
He's the cool teacher who says things like "huge."
The kids would say I'm boosting you right now, but don't ask me to explain what that means.
Oh, I'm getting old. Oh,
yes,
Yeah.
me too.
Cyberpunk.
As they are happy to remind me, I am too. Ryan McSwain, how are you today, sir?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Good. And Stephanie Bryant, how are you, Stephanie?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good. Okay, so, Jonathan, why don't you tell us what it is we're going to try to play?
So this is a new game that I'm working on called Restless, and it's a card-based freeform game where you go through a series of what we call verses. Each card is a verse, and each card is a specific situation that a group of people have to deal with in a post-apocalyptic landscape. And at the end of each verse, somebody dies. And so over the course of going through several of these cards, we're going to rotate through a cast of various survivors in the landscape. So if people die, then they can either... Ooh. Hey, where did I stop?
They can either
come back as new characters, or you can sort of have a kind of quasi-GM role in the background playing the various monsters in the world that are trying to eat you, or bits of the scenery, sentimental things, memories, lots of other kinds of stuff. So we're going to make some characters, and then over a course of a series of cards, we're going to find out what they do and what happens to them.
Cool. Sounds good to me. And I have a copy of the game in front of me too, just in case such a thing would be helpful.
Cool. So, should we start?
Yes. Oh, wait. Who's that at the door? Is that the dastardly Canadian accidental survivors host, Mr. Fraser? Ronald, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Sorry to interrupt your shenanigans.
Oh, bring it on. That's what they're there for. So I heard a rumor that you might stop by and that you might have something for us in the way of storytelling.
I do. I've got a little tale from Lord Dunsany called The Probable Adventure of the Three Literary Men. So not the three wise men, but the three literary men. It goes a little something like this. When the nomads came to El Lola, they had no more songs, and the question of stealing the golden box arose in all its magnitude. On the one hand, many had sought the golden box, the receptacle, as the Ethiopians knew, of poems of fabulous value, and their doom is still the common talk of Arabia. On the other hand, it was lonely to sit around the campfire by night with no new songs. It was the tribe of Heth that discussed these things one evening upon the plains below the peak of Luna. Their native land was the track across the world of immemorial wanderers, and there was trouble among the elders of the nomads because there were no new songs. While, untouched by human trouble, untouched as yet by the night that was hiding the plains away, the peak of Luna, calm in the afterglow, looked on the dubious land. And it was there, on the plains, upon the known side of Luna, just as the evening star came mouse-like into view, and the flames of the campfire lifted their lonely plumes uncheered by any song, that rash scheme was hastily planned by the nomads, which the world has named the Quest of the Golden Box. No measure of wiser precaution could the elders of the nomads have taken than to choose for their thief that very Slith, that identical thief that, even as I write, in how many schoolrooms governesses teach, stole a march on the king of Westphalia. Yet the weight of the box was such that others had to accompany him, and Sippy and Slorg were no more agile thieves than may be found today among vendors of the antique. So over the shoulder of Luna these three climbed next day, and slept as well as they might among its snows, rather than risk a night in the woods of the dubious land. And the morning came up radiant, and the birds were full of song, but the forest underneath and the waste beyond it, and the bare and ominous crags all wore the appearance of an unuttered threat. Though Slith had an experience of 20 years of theft, yet he said little. Only if one of the others made a stone roll with his foot, or, later on in the forest, if one of them stepped on a twig, he whispered sharply to them, always the same words, "That is not business." He knew that he could not make them better thieves during a 2 days' journey, and whatever doubts he had, he interfered no further. From the shoulder of Luna they dropped into the clouds, and from the clouds to the forest, to whose native beasts, as well the three thieves knew, all flesh was meat, whether it were the flesh of fish or man. There the thieves drew idolatrously from their pockets each one a separate god, and prayed for protection in the unfortunate wood, and hoped therefrom for a threefold chance of escape, since if anything should eat one of them, it were certain to eat all of them, and they confided that the corollary might be true, and all should escape if one did. Whether one of these gods was propitious and awake, or whether all of the three, or whether it was chance that brought them through the forest unmouthed by detestable beasts, none knoweth. But certainly neither the emissaries of the god that most they feared, nor the wrath of the topical god of that ominous place, brought their doom to the three adventurers there or then. And so it was that they came to Rumbly Heath, in the heart of the dubious land, whose stormy hillocks were the ground-swell, and the afterwash of the earthquake lulled for a while. Something so huge that it seemed unfair to man that it should move so softly stalked splendidly by them, and only so barely did they escape its notice that one word rang and echoed through their three imaginations, if. And when this danger was at last gone by, they moved cautiously on again, and presently saw the little harmless Mipt, half fairy and half gnome, giving shrill contented squeaks on the edge of the world. And they edged away unseen, for they said that the inquisitiveness of the Mipt had become fabulous, and that, harmless as he was, he had a bad way with secrets. Yet they probably loathed the way that he nuzzles dead white bones, and would not admit their loathing, for it does not become adventurers to care who eats their bones. Be this as it may, they edged away from the Mipt, and came almost at once to the wizened tree, the goal-post of their adventure, and knew that beside them was the crack in the world, and the bridge from bad to worse, and that underneath them stood the rocky house of owner of the box. This was their simple plan, to slip into the corridor in the upper cliff, to run softly down it, of course with naked feet, under the warning to travelers that is graven upon stone, which interpreters take to be, "It is better not to touch the berries that are there for a purpose on the right side going down, and so to come to the guardian on his pedestal, who had slept for 1,000 years and should be sleeping still, and go in through the open window. One man was to wait outside by the crack in the world until the others came out with the golden box, and, should they cry for help, he was to threaten at once to unfasten the iron clamp that kept the crack together. When the box was secured, they were to travel all night and all the following day, until the cloud banks that wrapped the slopes of Luna were well between them and owner of the box. The door in the cliff was open. They passed without a murmur down the cold steps, Slith leading them all the way. A glance of longing, no more, each gave to the beautiful berries. The guardian upon his pedestal was still asleep. Slorg climbed by a ladder that Slith knew where to find to the iron clamp across a crack in the world, and waited beside it with a chisel in his hand, listening closely for anything untoward, while his friend slipped into the house, and no sound came. And presently Slith and Sippy found the golden box. Everything seemed happening as they had planned. It only remained to see if it were the right one and to escape with it from that dreadful place. Under the shelter of the pedestal, so near to the guardian that they could feel his warmth, which paradoxically had the effect of chilling the blood, the boldest of them, they smashed the emerald hasp and opened the golden box, and there they read by the light of ingenious sparks which Slith knew how to contrive, and even this poor light they hid with their bodies. What was their joy even at that perilous moment, was as they lurked between the Guardian and the Abyss, to find that the box contained 15 peerless odes in the archaic form, 5 sonnets that were by far the most beautiful in the world, 9 ballads in the manner of Provence that had no equal in the treasuries of man, a poem addressed to a moth in 28 perfect stanzas, a piece of blank verse of over 100 lines on a level not yet known to have been attained by man, as well as 15 lyrics on which no merchant would dare set a price. They would have read them again, for they gave happy tears to a man in memories of dear things done in infancy, and brought sweet voices from far sepulchres. But Slith pointed imperiously to the way by which they had come, and extinguished the light. And Slorg and Sippy sighed, then took the box. The Guardian still slept the sleep that survived 1,000 years. As they came away, they saw that indulgent chair close by the edge of the world, in which owner of the box had lately sat reading selfishly and alone the most beautiful songs and verses that poet ever dreamed. They came in silence to the foot of the stairs, and then it befell that as they drew near safely, in the night's most secret hour, some hand in an upper chamber lit a shocking light, lit it and made no sound. For a moment it might have been an ordinary light, fatal as even that could very well be at such a moment as this. But when it began to follow them like an eye, and to grow redder and redder as it watched them, then even optimism despaired. And Sippy very unwisely attempted flight, and Slorg even as unwisely tried to hide. But Slith, knowing well why that light was lit in that secret upper chamber and who it was that lit it, leaped over the edge of the world, and is falling from us still through the unreverberate blackness of the abyss. Ta-da!
Yay. Very nice.
Lovely.
Thank you very much, sir. That was
Yes.
a dark tale for a cold night down in northeastern Texas.
That's right. Well, Lord Dunsany tends to do that kind of thing.
Thank you for stopping by and telling us a story as I hustled you into doing. Where can people find you if they want more of your dulcet tones?
Well, the Accidental Survivors can be found at accidentalsurvivors.libsyn.com. You can go to swordsedgepublishing.ca to see some of my games, and then swordsedge.ca for my personal blog.
Awesome. Well, thank
Great.
you very much, sir.
Thank you. Enjoy your game.
Okay. All right,
Appreciate it.
Jonathan. So we have some characters to make, I believe.
We do, though it's not very difficult. So the first thing that happens in the game is some players decide to play non-survivors, and some players decide to play survivors. And the survivors play people, and the non-survivors play a lot of other things. But the game has very specific questions that it asks, so it's a very kind of structured exploration. So I'm going to play a non-survivor for the first verse. What does everybody else want to play? We need at least 2 survivors.
I'll
And
play
we
Survivor.
can change from verse to verse.
I'll be a,
right?
Yes.
yeah, I'll be a survivor.
I'd like to be a survivor.
Okay, so 3 survivors. What about you, Josh?
I could go either way. I'll be a non-survivor this time.
Terrific. So for the survivors, you just need a name, an overall vibe about your character. You know, you can describe what their personality is like, what they're wearing, something like that. And then 1 or 2 things that you carry with you. So there's a bunch of examples. All sorts of names. You can be passionate, hardened, calm, sensuous, stern, proud, commanding. Those are just some examples. And then things you might carry: a fish gutting knife, a pen light, a backpack full of candy, a police shotgun, a baby that isn't mine, a gin bottle. So, why don't you pick a name and a vibe and an object or 2 and tell us about yourselves.
Stephanie, you want to go first?
Give me a second.
Sure. Oh, you looking at the?
I am.
Okay. Yes. On
I
page
could
10. Go ahead.
I could be Jeb,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll have a box cutter and a Sharpie pen marker.
Mm-hmm.
And for a vibe, I'll be a little bit paranoid.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jeb.
You're welcome.
I will play Robert.
Mm-hmm.
My vibe will be mournful,
Mm-hmm.
and my items will be a hatchet and a locket.
Is that a picture locket or a key locket or what kind of locket?
I imagine a picture locket.
Okay.
What was your character's name again?
Robert.
Robert.
Is that a physical hatchet or a copy of the classic middle grade novel, The Hatchet?
That would be camping equipment.
Okay, they'd both be useful, I think.
Brian,
Potentially.
If you need some pointers.
Yeah.
Brian, what was your character's name again? I'm sorry.
I'm going to be Jeb.
Jeb. Box cutter.
Is that Paulson? Rob Paulson?
I think it's Gary. Is it Gary Paulson?
Gary Paulson.
Yeah.
And there's a sequel, I think, but
Yeah,
There
The
is.
River.
The
Yep.
River.
Mhm. I read all of those as well.
I will be Winifred, who is naive
Winifred.
and is carrying a homecoming banner.
Nice. Is it rolled up?
Sometimes.
Gotcha.
Or do you wear it like a cape?
No, like right now it's just, I don't know, rolled up and then like draped over my shoulders because, and it's like a thin vinyl, so yeah.
Right. Not the kind that's printed on a giant sheet of paper, but a sort of vinyl thing with rings in it to hang it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've used the same homecoming banner for 15 years.
Gotcha. So then the other thing that it asks is for each character to pick a way that they know one of the other characters. Here's some examples: are a community college lit class, an ill-fated fling, they held my hair while I puked, we were in Hebrew school together, things like that. So.
I take the same bus as Robert.
Nice.
Before the cataclysm.
I like the idea that Winifred was my best man
At
That was
your
your
wedding.
best fan?
at my wedding. Yeah.
I was a bridesmaid once, so that's possible, I think.
Is that cool with you, Winifred?
Oh. Sure. Why not?
So you were Robert's best man? Is that how it goes? Okay.
Yeah, and I was his best man because I am his cousin.
Nice. Best man and cousin. Cool. So let me draw the first card and we'll see what our situation is. Oh, good. We got dreams and nightmares. So let me read the first paragraph and we can get going, unless we have another spontaneous interruption.
Oh, hey, you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that. I believe I see another guest of the show, friend of the show, Avenel Wing. I think. Let's see. Oh, I may have surprised her. Oh, I do see her.
Your mic is muted, Evan.
Hi. Oh,
Still muted.
Remuted.
Yeah.
I do not believe I have muted you.
Okay,
Hey,
There she is. There you
there
are.
we go.
Nice
I'm
of you to stop by. Oh, she's muted again. Now it says you muted her, Josh.
Let me see if I can. Okay, I'm not touching anything. It wasn't me. Hey, how are you?
I feel like I tried to stop by Mr. Rogers' neighborhood and tripped the threshold.
Yes.
So let's try this again. I hear.
Don't look directly in the eyes of the train. So,
Trolley.
how are you?
How is everybody? I hear that you guys are talking about nightmares on this cold winter's night.
We're working on it. we were about to examine some dreams and some nightmares.
Well, I have a story for you about nightmares at Christmas time.
Oh, great.
A bit. It's actually a story about plenty and how nightmares view plenty, of joy and excess, and the deep, dark sadness of the season that lurks damply around the edges of Christmas Day. This selection, Christmas the Old Way, is from Christmas Ghost Stories, a collection of winter tales by Mark Onsbog. The ornament. That's not the one I picked out. Hold on. There we go. So I'm just going to keep tripping over things in Mr. Rogers' living room. We'll get there. Christmas the Old Way. Every Christmas we come down from the crumbling and mold-ridden shops and homes of our towns to the black, heaving sea, where our relatives emerge from the seas with presents, special delicacies, and toys fashioned for the young ones of bone and coral, shell and gem. For our part, we bring nameless things from the forests and mountains, and toys for the young ones of stone and bone, wood and web. Then we feast for an entire week on black widow egg wine and squid ink lager, heaping trays of venomous vermin and poisonous rockfish. We stuff ourselves on raw eels and frisky beetles, and eat shark eye pie and hornet sting cakes. Finally, the big day comes, and the youngest are tricked out in all the finery in large trunks from the caves and footlockers from the sea. They dance and they flap and caper about, their clothes the only human thing about them. And our aunts and uncles play eerie music on bone flutes and bladder drums, and we all laugh and sing the old songs. And come midnight on Christmas Eve, we all look to the skies, waiting for the first jingling of bells. And at last, we hear them. My sisters start to cry, and I sweep her up in clumsy arms, my fused fingers making it difficult, but I hold her up and kiss her and comfort her in the guttural tongue of joy. And then enormous tentacles covered in bells descend from the roiling clouds above and seize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, my sister among them. They are hoisted into the clouds and we dance until dawn. Then we fall into exhausted sleep under slick oilcloth tarps and overturned skiffs safe from the punishing sun. Later, as we dine on the traditional breakfast of jellyfish puddings and bear-lung pasties, their pulverized bones rain down from above, and it's just like snow.
Thank you very much. That
I am
was a
starving now.
delightful Christmas tale from the dark underneath places. So, thank you. Where can people find you, or what can we plug for you now that you have stopped by into our domain?
I am at Twitter as Avenel. I am at dexposure.com, and I'm on G+ as Avenel Wang. We plug the conventions that I run, which are DexCon, Dreamation, Metatopia, and Maelstrom. And I will put something up publicly on G+ tonight, just elucidating a little bit about which each of those is.
Okay, awesome.
So thank you so much for letting me stop by.
Oh, no problem. Have a nice cold evening. Find yourself a bright light and a warm drink.
All right.
Please watch your step on the way out.
To everybody.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Okay.
So, back to the game, I guess.
Yes. Dreams and nightmares.
Dreams and nightmares, indeed. So here we go. Jeb, Robert, and Winifred. The exhaustion is overwhelming. Decide where you make camp for the night. Not a shelter, but out in the open. Say who's taking the first watch, and then each survivor says what you do before falling asleep. So where are you making camp for first?
Well, what kind of openness is this? Are we out on the Great Prairies? Are we in like Iowa or Nebraska or something?
Yeah, that sounds great. Cornfields, little abandoned farmhouses, long dirt roads.
How do you guys feel about a Greyhound bus that is broken down in the middle of the highway? That
Sounds
maybe
cozy.
yeah, maybe we don't even camp inside it, but we just like use it as a windbreak. and
I think
sleep
we should
next
go
to it.
inside it.
Go inside.
Pry open the doors, yeah. Unless it's full. Is it full of bodies or something?
I mean, the people could be mysteriously gone. What do you think, Josh? That sounds reasonable.
Yes, definitely. There's no obvious signs of doom, I don't think.
No. There's like a few people's belongings, like a sweater or something on the bus, but otherwise it's just strangely empty. Maybe
All
turned on its side slightly, like in a ditch.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is it's more like tipped over, and it would be hard for us to get in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
So, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Pitching a tent in the lee of the overturned bus.
Sounds good to me.
So
Do we need to
who's-
use the homecoming banner? I mean, do we have
Yeah,
a
that's-
tent?
That's what we have it for, really.
That's good.
Yeah. So are you gonna hang it on the side of the bus like a tent, or are you gonna sort of wrap it around yourselves?
No, we hang it like a tent.
Cool. Nice. So
We're
who's
the
taking?
worst looters ever.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you know by past experience that you don't want to be in the bus. I don't know. So, so who's taking the first watch?
We can't stay on the bus because it smells like diesel.
Oh.
Yeah, still all those fumes.
Also, it's a Greyhound bus. It had a toilet, which is now on its side. You don't want to stay inside the bus.
Gotcha. So
I didn't know it was
I
on
don't-
its side. I thought it was just jackknife.
Tipped just enough to matter.
Just
Yeah.
enough.
I don't think Robert would take the first watch. I think he has trouble sleeping, so you would prefer a later watch.
Gotcha.
I'll take the first watch.
Sounds good.
Terrific. So what do each of you do as you're laying down to go to sleep?
I will eye Robert suspiciously.
Are you just sort of like finding a nice soft patch of dirt to kind of like ball yourself into?
Yeah, using my Sharpie pin marker as a substitute pillow.
I think Robert would like find oh wow, that's a great picture. Robert would find a stone or something he can use to sharpen his hatchet, and that's sort of like a nervous habit at night. So you hear the
Right. A nice melodic
dark.
sound to fall asleep to.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's great. Hence the eyeing suspiciously. He's playing Pigeons from Hell over there.
Must
Okay.
you?
Yeah. What about you, Winifred? What's your nightly ritual?
I do what I can to brush my hair because I'm still all girl, and I try to ignore the fact that I'm in the presence of my cousin who can't seem to put the damn hatchet away, and box cutter boy who, quite frankly, kind of smells.
Oh.
And I mean, we all smell, you know.
Yeah, we all smell.
I know, but you know, some of us make an effort, and yeah. So I try
Yeah.
to,
Brush your hair.
as a general rule, I try to like make my life anyway a little bit less horrible,
Mm-hmm.
At
Nice.
and generally fail.
Well, you do kind of, because the next paragraph says, When only the watch remains awake, each of the non-survivor players say something about the night. Is it eerily silent or full of noises? How does it smell? What are the weather, clouds, and moon like? Josh, do you want to go first? What's the night like?
There's a warm breeze, and there's a very distinct smoky smell with a strong memory of what you think is bacon blowing on the wind. It's tantalizing, yet at the same time disturbing, because
That's long pig bacon.
Yeah.
it could be, but it's definitely it's hard to tell exactly where it's coming from. But the smoke is just enough to make your eyes water, but the bacon is strong enough to make your tongue water too.
Fascinating. So you have this bizarre mixture of smells next to the bus as you sleep. I also think the moon is like surprisingly low. I mean, you're in the middle of the prairie, right? But I think it's like it seems like very close to the horizon, and just like big and makes everything look very silver. Like everything has this metallic look to it. Cool.
Like that.
Well, and the next paragraph goes, all of the slumbering survivors are dreaming of the past. Take turns having each survivor describe the memory they are reliving, but then have the non-survivor players alter one or two details to be disturbingly surreal, sad, or frightening. Play out each nightmare, ending with the survivor being woken up to take your turn at watch. So, I guess we get to pick as non-survivors.
Sure.
Winifred is keeping watch, so we get Jeb or Robert first.
Jeb, you want to go first? Tell us about your dream.
And then we'll mess it up.
Sounds good. All right, I am, because I'm on a bus, or not on the bus because it's too gross inside. The bus reminds me of how I know Robert from before the end of everything. And I remember sitting on the bus on the way to my low-paying, monotonous job, and he is a familiar stranger among other familiar strangers that I just happen to recognize on a bus, and that's my dream. It's very mundane until something horrible happens.
Nice. I think my way of making it weird is I think as you're sitting there on the bus, you notice that like all the people don't have any faces. They're just these sort of like blank slates, and like slowly, one at a time, they all kind of turn and put their faceless faces towards you.
And I think there's a song playing, maybe a song that you don't like. What's a song that you don't like, Jeb?
Arms Wide Open by Creed.
There you go. Let's make it Arms Wide Open by Creed.
It starts off fairly, but it's getting louder the more you notice the faces.
Yeah. What are you doing?
I am panicking and attempting to push my way through the horde of faceless people.
Like to the front of the bus?
Yes, to the front of the bus, but they're moving me in the other direction, and I feel trapped and panicky and claustrophobic.
Yeah, totally. They like reach out their hands and sort of grab you by little bits of your clothing, and I think maybe they lift your feet up off the floor, so you're kind of like kicking your feet in the air.
And you may be a little bit disoriented, so you can't be sure, but it seems like the bus might be one big circle now. So you can see the front ahead of you and behind you.
I plant my feet on the shoulders of one of them, and I claw at their faceless nothings, and I try to reach up for the emergency exit in the roof of the bus, but they just keep pulling me back down.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, that sounds good to me. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Why don't we have Winifred wake Josh up, or wake Jeb up?
It's your turn for watch, Jeb.
Rawr! Rawr! Okay, I will take my watch. I I leave the sleeping area and I find Robert and probably startle him and then relieve him.
No, you're
No, I'm the one
relieving
on watch.
Winifred.
Oh,
She's waking
Yeah.
you were the
Yeah,
one
yeah.
watch. I'm sorry. I thought Robert volunteered, but I forgot that he is a lazy good for nothing.
Wow.
He always let the old lady stand on the bus. He never offered his seat. So okay, thank you, Winifred. I will take watch.
Nice. So now, Josh, it says you and I describe any changes in the mood of the night before we go into the next dream. Has the mood of the night changed at all?
I like what you were talking. I think the smell may be gone, but maybe the moon is still hauntingly odd.
Cool. Nice. Robert, you want to tell us about how your dream starts? It's supposed to be based on some memory that you have.
Right. So I think my memory is going to be my wedding day.
Nice.
And the specific memory is the cutting of the cake. And it's, one of those giant 3-tier jobbies, tux and the beautiful wedding dress, huge crowd, that sort of thing. And that's the setting. I picture it's an outdoor reception, so like there's a gazebo with garlands all on it and a nice big lawn on a lake.
Nice. Yeah, I think, I don't know, Josh, do you have an idea?
I was thinking, so at your actual wedding, a couple of people maybe caused a scene and butted in line and talked. In this dream, everything goes perfectly well in terms of the guest's behavior, and it just strikes you as odd. Like you can't talk. It's one of those dreams where you feel like you should raise an objection, like this isn't how things go the way you remember it, but everything seems to be going even better than in the real dream, or in the real wedding.
Yeah, and I think you get to the point where you're supposed to process out, and for some reason the cake is like what you're supposed to be processing to the cake in this dream, and then cutting the cake like as you're processing back down the aisle. But they've put the cake like on a platter that's like floating out in the middle of the lake, and they're gesturing for you to process like into the lake. Where you're like obviously going to drown.
Right.
But they're just pointing in that direction and waiting expectantly, and you can't say anything.
Okay. I want to grab my new wife's hand and try running the other direction, like in total Doctor Who fashion. Like grab the hand and start running.
Awesome. What do you think, Josh?
I think that you succeed in running, and yet for some reason your feet are still getting wet. So you're not as far from.
The lake is rising, right? It's like coming to catch up with you. Like you're running away, and your feet are getting sloshy.
Okay. I think at that point, so my feet are starting to get sloshy, and the water continues to rise even as I'm running away. It gets up to my waist, and I take off the tux jacket to try and free myself up a little bit and keep running. And since this is a horror game, I lose grip on my wife's hand.
Yeah.
And she starts getting pulled back.
Yeah. I think maybe there's even hands that are pulling her like under the water, and maybe you see a glimmer of like under the surface of the water. You see the "Welcome Home" banner.
I like that. That's disturbing.
That is very creepy. And at that point, I dive back in after her.
I think you find the dress, and and you can feel her hands, but that's about all. You can't actually find her body.
That is a creepy photo you found.
You get that.
Nothing says a wedding like an impromptu baptism.
Yes.
Okay.
Says the man in Texas.
Jeb, you better wake up your friend.
I think so.
Hey, wake up, buddy. It is your turn for watch.
Yeah, so Robert doesn't, like, startle awake at all. He just sort of, opens his eyes and, he's kind of dead. He just sort of nods, and he, without speaking, he just goes out to the other side of the fire to keep watch. Maybe he'll like toss some sticks on the fire and feed it. No words.
Nice. So, changes in the mood of the night, Josh?
I'm not sure. What do you think?
I was thinking, we had all this silvery moonlight. I think maybe on the other side of the bus, where the survivors can't see, there's these like strange, really blotches of darkness in the cornfield, where like something is like sucking all the light into a black hole, and there's like 2 or 3 of them, like the velociraptors in Jurassic Park, that are sort of moving around in the cornfield.
I like that. Yeah, it's maybe it's extra quiet there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No sound at all.
There's something missing.
Okay, Winifred, why don't you tell us about your dream?
Winifred?
How about if I unmute my microphone?
That's good.
I used to work at the diner, so it's a sunny Saturday morning, so we're super busy, but all the regulars, I know pretty much everybody who's here, and it's that smell of bacon that's in my nose that gets me going here. It kind of sparked this memory. It's actually late September, so it is actually homecoming weekend. So the homecoming banner is hanging up on the wall of the diner, and Robert and Jeb are both there. Robert's with his bride, and Jeb is sitting at the counter like he always does. Jeb doesn't talk much, but he's a decent tipper. Robert's a shitty tipper, but he's my cousin, so I don't mind. And they always get the same thing every time, except Jeb, about once a month, he changes his order and gets French toast. I have no idea why. And I'm juggling all the plates and everything, and the whole diner kind of gets a hush when somebody famous who grew up here walks in. He's like a movie star or something, and everybody's always, a little dazzled by him.
Nice.
And he walks in.
Okay.
Go for it, Josh. You have ideas?
Yes, I suppose I do. I was going to say, in walks Billy D. Williams. He's a very famous local, and he's a little bit older, still quite charming, still a good tipper. He comes in, but you notice that there's something wrong with his shadow, which is to say that it's bigger than usual. And you also notice that you can't hear him speaking.
Nice.
Huh.
Yeah, I think he sits down at a booth, and you can see his lips say, the regular or whatever, and but you can't hear him. And his shadow kind of folds around the floor and actually takes up the seat across from him, and is just kind of sitting there.
And I'm not old enough to have been working here when he was actually, a townie and a regular. So I don't know what his usual is.
Nice.
So I keep asking him, what is it you want? What is it you want? And I turn to the shadow and say, I can't understand him. Can you translate? Like I'm asking the shadow to speak for him.
Yeah. That sounds like a great idea. What happens, Josh?
I think that the shadow is speaking, but that you can't understand what it's saying. Or at least you think the sound. It could be the jukebox just playing a song you don't know, but you're pretty sure it's the shadow, and you can't quite make out what it's trying to say.
Yeah, and I think you have to lean in closer, and then like closer and closer to try to make out the words that the shadow is trying to tell you.
Okay. Well, when I really can't hear the shadow, I'm going to go over to the jukebox and try to unplug it because it's so damn loud and it's like shrieking that damn country song. I mean, everybody likes that stupid country song, but when you've heard it 100 times. So I unplug the jukebox, but the stupid music won't stop, and I still can't hear my customers.
Okay. I think you also notice that there's definitely music coming from the shadows, and that you can almost understand the words.
You said it was a country song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a cover of "Oh Death," played really slowly in a like haunting kind of like old timey kind of way. Maybe the Ralph Stanley version.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and I go back and I keep asking them to repeat their order, and I'm getting agitated now because if there's one thing you don't do on a Saturday morning at a busy diner is you don't take forever giving your order. And so I start yelling at them, just tell me what you want. Tell me what you want to have. Eggs, bacon, toast, French toast, just tell me.
Yeah, and I think as you're yelling at the shadow, like all the other shadows of everybody in the room kind of stand up and are like siding with the shadow in this fight that you're having or something, and they're kind of clustering around you. What do you think, Josh?
Yes. I think this might be a good time for you to wake up.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the person who has watch has a unique wake-up thing, which is kind of unfortunate for you, but I'll read the paragraph. The final survivor to dream should be the first one on watch. They are woken in the dim light of the morning by their own dying screams as the restless consume them. The non-survivor players describe how this happens. So you get eaten by the restless.
Your hair looked kind of nice.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Thank you for making an effort.
Nice. So Josh, we should describe how the restless come out of the. Assuming there's black spots in the form.
Yep.
How they come up.
I like how you describe them as moving sort of like velociraptors in that they are clearly, even though they're an absence of a thing, they move like hunters and surround you. And there's no one there to say clever girl. Yeah.
So I think Jeb and Robert, you're awakened by the sound of Winifred getting eaten. I think it might be surprisingly quiet except for her screams, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like dead silence, and she's being like absorbed by one of the like mobile black holes.
And then at the very end, as she dies, there's a sort of Doppler shift effect in her voice, as if she's being carried away, or the sound itself is moving away.
Oh yeah, it's pretty terrible. So maybe not dead, but just like sucked way into some crazy void far away that's impossible to reach.
That's better.
Yeah. Clearly better. Nice. So the other survivors then describe how you wake and flee. The restless can destroy, kill, absorb, or consume one more of the survivors if they like. So you guys describe how you get out of here, and then we describe whether we kill one of you.
Robert, you are the worst at watch. You are terrible. I have nothing to gather up. I immediately flee. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice Robert's locket is in the grass, but I just leave it.
Robert, have you talked yet? Has your character spoken?
Yeah, I think I've spoken. He's not mute.
Okay.
I think what Robert does is he can't leave without the locket, and he takes as much time as he needs to find the locket before he heads off on his own in a direction completely different from Jeb.
I always hated you.
Screw you. Yeah. So I think I don't think Robert would be willing to part with the locket.
Nice.
So if that means he gets eaten by a black hole, so be it.
Nice, Josh. So what do you think? Are we going to eat one more of them, or are we going to let them barely escape?
I think we better eat one more of them.
Okay. Are we going to eat Robert for his attachment to the locket, or are we going to get Jeb for abandoning the locket?
It's
For having
a
no
locket.
humanity.
Oh, yeah, you fell asleep. And I had to cut that locket off your neck to hide it in the grass. But it would never have happened. It would have never happened if you had stayed awake and watched.
Yeah, I know. I feel like as the Restless, I feel more inclined to eat Jeb.
Yes, I tend to agree with you.
Cool.
He seems the noisier of the two.
Yeah, he's clearly made the wrong moral choices for this movie.
I'm a survivor until this happens.
Yeah, well, not anymore. So I think he runs along.
Enjoy your silent protagonist. Legend of the Restless.
I think Jeb runs along and is like looking behind him to see what's coming after him, and then runs just right smack into a big patch of darkness. And
all right. And that's the end of Jeb.
Yeah, so
All right.
sad.
We hardly knew him.
Cool. Well, it's probably a good time for us to be. Probably a good time for us to be interrupted by something else.
Yes. Hey, who's that I see? One more interruptor.
Is that a digital knock on the door?
Is that a digital knock on the door? Yes. But once again, we do a bad job of warning our guests that we see them. Oh, hey, how about I do my thing and open the door, as it were.
No, it's okay. I can come back in 5. It's fine. I'll come knocking around later.
Mr. Rogers' neighborhood has too good a security system. He's not used to disabling it.
Mr. Rogers' gated community.
They don't let me into communities.
So, I've never read your name. So, is it Govney?
It's Govna.
Govna, okay.
actual
That makes
name.
more sense. Yes, no.
My parents were not that cruel.
Yes. I remember you from podcasting days long gone.
Jesus, you remember This Modern Death.
Yes, I do. And I saw earlier you waved your kid at us. It's like, I believe you guys stopped podcasting when you were pregnant, and that kid is old enough to wield a sword, so it must have been a while. But
They do
anyway,
start early. They do start
well,
early.
we stopped when we moved away from that town and away from our co-host.
Okay.
Sadly.
Right on. Well, welcome. It's nice to see
Oh,
you.
thank you. I'm still kind of blown away that people remember that show. It was only, 6 years ago,
Yeah.
8. I don't know.
Well,
Time.
as my students are happy to remind me, I'm old, so.
I'm getting there. I can tell when the rain's coming in my fingers anymore.
So, not only do I know you as a podcaster and as a general gamer, I understand that you also are an author.
Yeah, once published. I'm going to put that on my business card, published once.
Yes.
Yeah, I've written various things, a few books. I'm just now getting around to submitting anything anywhere. And you mentioned children. Do you guys like kids?
Mm-hmm.
We love kids.
I love
Oh.
kids when they go home with
That's
their
great.
parents.
Yeah, no, kids are beautiful and wonderful. And I have this story if you guys want to hear it.
Yes.
About kids.
Yes.
Okay. This is a story I wrote under the name R.D. Sullivan, and it is called Skin Knees. I had always wanted a child. From a distance, I've always watched them. Children are the culmination of somebody else's hopes and dreams, kept warm under heat lamps of love and expectations. Day in and day out, they run, they laugh, they play, with lives full of nothing but possibility and lived entirely in the moment. At home there would be family dinners, discussions, and hugs before sleeping warm and safe under a shared roof. Who wouldn't want a tiny piece of that in their life? There had never been any hope for me, but eventually I accepted this as the better path. Even on the outside, I had access and opportunity. More than a clipboard and a whistle, I was their confidant and haven for every playground grievance. Every fall from the slide, utterance of a tattle, or excuse for a wrong came to me, through me, and became my duty and my weight to bear. The vilest of offenders was the asphalt, such a long expanse of rough, unwelcoming blacktop that was sure to extract at least a price once a day. It seemed as if the ground itself would stick to their shoes and pull them down, tearing flesh from knees and palms, deftly burying tiny rocks under skin, and bringing forth tears of pain and surprise. And to me they did come, seeking condolences, gauze, and ointment. That's how I started building him. Bloody cotton balls were stashed in pockets to rub against discarded Band-Aids. With only the faintest of marks, I'd save where they'd fallen, precisely, and return at night. Piece by tiny piece, I collected their skin, their little bits of life they'd left pressed into the asphalt. It took years for me to complete my precious boy, my Luke. 15 years of dedication and watching. 15 years of collecting and saving. I gave up countless hours to mold and press flakes of skin into form, to fill the shape with strands of cotton stained brown with blood. It never would have been enough, so I held him and sang. We watched movies, had dinners, and read stories together. The skin and blood made him. The love made him work. And when he was ready, I bundled him up and took him to school. In my joy, I missed it at first. The elation of having him, of having a child of my own, blinded me to anything that may have been wrong with my precious boy. But after the first teacher talked to me, I began to see. I had made a child out of parts that make up children. His life had been brought about through passion and dedication, a 15-year toil of love. Who would have thought that it wouldn't be enough? But I missed the truth. Love cannot unsour milk. It hadn't mattered what fuel I'd used to power him. I had built him out of bad parts. He was made out of bits of pain and failure, of defeat and ridicule and embarrassment. Everything that made him had come at a price to another child, and it defined who he was. I had created my baby from unhappiness and tears. What could at first be excused as adapting to life soon became a permanent personality. The other students started avoiding him almost immediately. He was quiet, but he had an aura of malevolence that poisoned rooms like a slow gas leak. Darkness surrounded him, and it drove people away. All of the children could feel it. And there were the accidents. It didn't matter if the other children played with him or not. Wherever he traveled on that cursed asphalt, they fell. All he had to do was glance at a game of tag or a group of kids playing basketball, and within minutes, it would happen. Knees and pavement would meet, stones digging into tender flesh and drawing blood from deep within. Even from my edge of the playground, I could see him smile slightly at the commotion and the carnage. I swear, in those moments, he was more here, more solid and more real than any time since he'd come to be. I was able to pass it off as paranoia until the accidents got worse. Within a month at our little school, I had cleaned up after a broken nose and a compound fracture, and had called the ambulance when a basketball backboard fell on a student, slicing his head and spilling a lot of blood, too much blood, on the asphalt. That Friday we went shopping. Luke had outgrown all of his clothes. At home I slowly grew more terrified of him. Never was he cruel or violent, but he had no need to be. His very presence terrified teachers and students, and I slept alone at night under the same roof he did. We were all afraid of him, but without Luke acting out, without any actual issues at home or in class, nobody could help me. I witnessed his transformation, watching him grow solid and strong with every drop of blood. That oppressive air of danger around him strengthened, souring everyone it touched. Nothing could tell me exactly what I had created, but the facts added up to one conclusion. Luke was a monster. Something had to be done before somebody got killed. Saturday night, I made his favorite dish seasoned with horse tranquilizer. I took him to the edge of the basketball court, that terrible surface that had been his womb, and dug. Throughout the night I dug until I was satisfied it could fit even a coffin. I cried as I shoveled dirt in. I had lost my son, but he was never meant to be. With that relief, I went home. Sunday, I awoke to Luke standing over me, smiling at the edge of my bed. "I want to play basketball down at the school, Mom. Come play with me." The end.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Chilling.
And they all lived happily ever after.
Of
course.
Children. Aww.
Sometimes dead is better.
Well,
Can't
thank
say
you very
children
much.
Without saying chill.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we've
That
had
was-
surprisingly good stories to accompany our game here.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you, Governor. If people wanted to find more of your writing or your whatever it is you want them to be able to find, where would they go? I'll leave it open.
I'm not really safe for work anywhere,
Fair
so
enough.
be warned. I have a website. It is govneh.com, govna.com. I also have a small podcasting network that's been on a slight hiatus, but it is the Cement Shoe Network. You can go to youtube.com/govna and find all of my episodes of Talking Shit with Dave and Earl. Also, I have a spelling bee that we do completely drunk called the Shitface Spelling Bee. And then, yeah, no, it's as bad of an idea as it sounds. That's why we keep doing it. And then we have a fan fiction show. There's some writing shows, a Burning Wheel show if you're into that. So we should have Cement Shoe, the website, up and running, hopefully within a couple months. So
Awesome.
for that.
Nice.
Oh, and I'm on
Isn't-
Twitter all the time. It's @_the_Russian.
Okay. Sweet.
And
I
who
love-
isn't into Burning Wheel? I mean, Burning Wheel is the best, so.
Yeah.
It is
I've
one
also
of-
heard if you enjoy it, you don't know what fun is.
That might also be true.
I'm a fan, so.
Good.
All
All right.
You guys enjoy your game. I'm signing off for the night.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Okay. Well, that was awesome. And
You know so many.
Yes, I know so many creepy, weirdo, fun people. Do we have the time and energy for one more, or do we need to call it a night at this point?
I kind of think this would be a good wrapping point.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I will be playing this game again sometime, I guarantee. But
Sweet. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for willing to try this out. I thought our nightmares were particularly heinous, so that's awesome.
yeah.
That was
Before
awesome.
Did you already say where people can find you?
Oh yes, we better not let you go.
Oh, sure. Well, there's not really great places for people to find me, unfortunately. I'm mostly on G+ these days. I do have a website, corvidsun.com, that has a bunch of old blog posts and stuff, and hopefully we'll have new stuff once I actually get this game done. So,
And that's how far out do you think until you're ready to release Restless?
it's pretty close. I just want to play it a little bit more. Like I said, a lot of other people have played it, but I haven't played it yet, really. So, and now I have. Hey!
Yes,
So-
can't do that
And it
anymore.
went so well.
So yeah, it was great. So I think I want to play it all the way. I want to play all the cards just so I know that they work fine, and then I think it's basically ready. So hopefully early next year, probably at this point. But yeah,
Wonderful.
a great post-Christmas present for all the friends you want to horrify.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Sounds
Which
good.
should be all of them, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I do with my friends. So
Care enough to scare.
yeah, scaring is caring.
Yes, that movie gets a lot of circulation in this house. Well, thank you, Jonathan, and thank the rest of you guys for being my pawns in my overly complicated Storytime special.
Next time you need a set, I think.
Yes.
A house, a ginger goat Christmas.
Yeah. But
Yes.
one plug I will drop down, and if you guys have anything you want to plug, feel free. Go do yourself the favor of looking up my interview on Dr. Tom the Frog, which is a relatively new YouTube puppet talk show. And I believe I was on the second episode, but it was fun, and it's short. So speaking of things with sets that are spectacular, Dr. Tom the Frog Show.
Dr. Tom the Frog.
Yeah.
I will never miss a chance to plug my book, Monsters
Oh, hey,
All the Way
it's
Down.
physical.
Yes, it is physical.
Let's get physical. Go read my book. I would love to sell some more of them. It would be wonderful.
I would like to take an opportunity to plug another podcast I was on yesterday. I ran the not even fully designed yet pre-alpha playtest of Three Rocketeers on the One Shot podcast. Cool. So check that out. That will be airing sometime this month, and it went well. It went surprisingly well. I've actually stopped calling it a playtest because it really wasn't. It was more proof of concept. And the 4 players who took the roles of the space-going versions of Musketeers with rocket packs are all improvisers here in Chicago. And Chicago is like the place to be if you're into improv. So they were all in fine form, and I basically, as the GM, just sat back and let them do their thing because there wasn't any way I was going to top that. So it should be an extremely entertaining episode of One Shot, if nothing else.
Nice.
Cool.
Wonderful.
We should also plug Stephanie for being awesome if she's not going to plug herself. So
Yes.
Have I told you about? Have you met Stephanie?
Yes. Have you met Stephanie?
I don't
Stephanie,
have a whole lot to plug right now, actually. So, yeah, the Dracula dossier funded completely, overfunded 1,000 times over, not 1,000 times, but a whole bunch of times over. So, my adventure is going to happen, and that means that the next month or so I am reading and watching a lot of werewolf and spy movies.
Nice.
Werewolf
that's
and
kind of
spy
fun.
Very
movies.
fun.
nice.
Yeah.
Now, is there existing art for werewolf spy movies? Have those been combined before?
Probably, but I haven't found them.
Okay.
Yeah, and the premise of this is it's a take on Carlos the Jackal, but with werewolves,
Hey.
and ties into the Dracula dossier storyline. So, yeah,
Sweet.
should be pretty exciting, and I'm excited in part because werewolves have not really been statted out for Night's Black Agents yet, so.
Cool.
It's kind of a blank slate to work from.
Awesome.
Go
Yeah.
Team Stephanie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm on Team Stephanie. I'm okay with that. Oh, I also, if that were a shirt, I would wear it. Seriously. Also, I want to publicly give you brownie points, whatever that means, for attempting to run a game for an actual playfest. It's not your fault that all of you
man.
players ditched you for whatever real
Well,
life.
Yeah, it hasn't exactly been a great week anyway. I started the week with a migraine, which apparently was really good for my Christmas shopping because migraine me apparently likes to shop. So I woke up Tuesday morning with a bunch
retail
of
medication.
notifications. Yeah, there were a bunch of notifications from Amazon. I was like, oh, did I do things? Oh, that's good. And then on Thursday, my refrigerator broke.
Oh,
So
Oh man.
yeah, so it was kind of like, on the one hand, I was really pissed because players flaking, and on the other hand, there was a certain part of me that was just kind of like, well, it just can't get worse, right? I mean, I'm just gonna write off the entire weekend at this point and wrap it up. So yeah.
Cool. Well, if you need players,
some weeks are
if you need players, come find me. We'll do some stuff.
okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Right on.
Yeah, no, it was. I had really cool ideas for running "Witness the Murder of Your Father" and "Be Ashamed,
That's
Young
sweet.
Prince."
Yeah. mhm.
Yeah, and but didn't happen. So
That's all right.
Cool.
I'm still hoping to record a Baron Munchausen, but I guess it'll probably be a little late in the proceedings.
Oh, whatever. It's always. I will put it up anyway, even if it is late, because I am a fan of that game and that goofy movie.
We'll get a
I
head
am-
start on 2015, so.
I'm still so disappointed that I gave away my copy of Baron Munchausen.
Well, I believe it's back in print.
Well, the PDF is out. There's a new
Oh,
PDF
okay.
edition that came out a couple
Okay.
months ago. But I gave away my gorgeous leatherette bound
Oh!
copy because for a few years I was on the board of directors at the Chicago Nerd Social Club, and I organized by myself the Halloween party, which always includes pride support for the event, for the costume contest, for the pumpkin carving contest, and all of the prizes that year were just things I had that I was like, these are good prizes.
Awesome.
So
It's very
that-
rare
that
that
was
I
one of them.
regret giving something away. You know what I mean? But
I do know what you
why
mean.
did I give him that Normal Man trade paperback?
Yeah.
Why would I do that? Valentino.
Yes.
Oh, so Josh, I do want to let you know,
Yes.
when we do get around to doing the interview with me,
Mm-hmm.
I have a story already
Okay.
picked out, and I'm going to tease you with it a little bit here.
Okay.
My story will be if somebody ever does like a grand history of rock and roll and heavy metal, my story is going to be the tiny footnote that mentions me in that grand history.
Okay. I can live with that. So, with that.
wait, I have a shout out for PK actually.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't know if you still get excited by these little shout outs or not, but my friendly local store has Firefly on the shelves.
woo!
Yeah.
I get more excited when I find out it is no longer on the shelves. But
Well, okay, let me put it this way. It's on the shelf behind the counter because somebody has called ahead and reserved it. So,
so that's
Hey.
very good.
That's like both at the same time.
Yes.
yeah.
It's
Well-
the Schrodinger's cat of books. Okay. Well, guys, thank you again, ladies and gentlemen,
Absolutely.
for joining us this evening. And this is weird. We never end the show ourselves. So I will just say thank you, everybody, for listening, and have a good night.